We're joined by Bob Chapman, and I have a couple of questions for Bob myself. I was only able to scan over the news for about an hour. Today I was out of town last night. So there are a couple headlines that I'd like to go over, including this one right here. FDIC problem banks at 775, a total of 775 banks, or 1/10 of all U.S. banks, were on the FDIC's list of problem institutions in the first quarter as bad loans in the commercial real estate market weighed on bank balance sheets. And it's probably much worse than that, but of course the 1/10, the 10% they're talking about are the smaller banks that will be consolidated into the big boys. What's your take, Bob?
Well, first of all, the figure's over 2,000. The real figure, I know that because I have somebody who attends those meetings who leaks the stuff to me. Second of all, there's 2,000 banks that the controller of the currencies office has their employees in, and they're actually running the banks. And eventually, all of those banks will probably go under. 72 banks officially have gone under this year, but they don't count how many branches they had, and many of them have 50 or 300 or whatever it is branches. So it's been fairly extensive as far as job loss is concerned. And I think that there's a good possibility that 200 to 300 will go under this year. It's hard to tell which way they're going to go on it as far as whether they're going to have some mergers. And very often they don't even announce the mergers. The FDIC probably has about $90 billion, including the 3 years that the banks have paid ahead on their dues. That probably will last them till the end of the year, maybe into the first quarter next year, and they're going to be broke again. And so it's not very good. But those are the numbers on that.
So what are we going to see? More revolving bailouts once this comes out? Once we have a couple banks go under, some more consolidation of power, they'll say the FDIC is broke and needs more help?
Well, under the bill that was just passed in the Senate, which must go to conference in the House, the Federal Reserve, instead of being audited like they should be, is going to have one audit, and it's going to be restricted to just one certain area, and that's it. And so what they're doing is throwing the public a bone. And within that bill, the FDIC is supposed to take over the control of the currency, the FDIC, the SEC, the CFTC, and a new group called Consumer something or other to protect consumers. And then they also have another group that they've formed under that.
Hold right there, Bob. We're going to come back to you on the other side. It's the Alex Jones Show. We're going to go over this new Senate bill that passed 59 to 39 just yesterday with Bob Chapman of the InternationalForecaster.com. We are back. It's the Alex Jones Show. I'm Jason Burmis sitting in. We've got Bob Chapman on the line. I want to read some of this article. Senate passes financial reform bill. Vote represents a major policy victory for President Obama. And I was out of town last night, so I was kind of late coming in. I didn't get to see this until last minute. Bob's going to break down what this bill is really about, but let me read the first paragraph for you. Prodded by national anger at Wall Street, the Senate on Thursday passed the most far-reaching restraints on big banks since the Great Depression. In its broad sweep, the massive bill would touch Wall Street CEOs for the first-time home buyers, high-flying traders, and small-town lenders, and they get it past 59 to 39. But Bob, what does this really mean?
It makes a monopoly out of the Federal Reserve, a private corporation. And it will include, as I pointed out earlier, really escape from audit for all intents and purposes, and the absorption of the control of the currency and the FDIC, the SEC, the CFTC, and this new Consumer Protection Agency and a stability board that they'll have or something to that effect. And also, they want reporting on derivatives that are trading over the counter market to be transparent, like other kinds of derivatives that are now traded on exchanges and have been since 1972. Wall Street doesn't like that. They didn't say anything, and there was no discussion over about the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and their problems and a possible takeover or something to be done with them. They discussed Glass-Steagall reintroduction, and that went by the wayside.
Now let's talk about Glass-Steagall for a moment. What would have happened if they had reintroduced Glass-Steagall, in your opinion?
I think it would have solved a great many of the problems that we have today. It was probably one of the most brilliant pieces of legislation at the right time, 1931, and it stood up all those years. And what it is essentially is a wall between the banks and the brokerage firms and the insurance companies. They used to be all together, and they had trusts and things like that. And when the market went down in the 30s, it was a disaster because of the concentration and the interconnectivity of these banks with one another and the brokerage houses and all of that. And that's why they broke them up. And they wanted to do that again. They also wanted to address the too big to fail. They didn't do anything about that. And the people in the House are very disturbed that H.R. 1207, which was the House bill, 326 members voted for it, that was decimated in the Senate committee. And so this bill is not going to easily go through the House, whether there's a lot of Democrats in there or not, and because some of the Democrats are fiscally conservative. And so we haven't heard the end of this yet, but I want to add something here that you didn't expect, and that is, on May 6th, we saw the market drop 1,000 points, and I explained in the forecaster why that happened. And it was these black box traders using the algorithms and hedge funds that deliberately knocked the market down. And they were trying to tell the Senate, if you don't do what we want you to do, we're going to destroy this market. Now, they've done it again in the last 5 or 6 days, because they wanted to, again, get the Senate to do as little as possible about the things that the Senate was supposed to do and what Wall Street and banking didn't want. And now it's going to the House, and that's why you see what you're seeing going on. They're rigging the market.
Let me stop you right there. We've got Alex Jones on the line to throw in his 2 cents. Alex?
Yeah, how could I miss a day with Bob Chapman? And I was just listening to the show. Absolutely, they've got to pass this in the House. And this isn't just Alex Jones or Bob Chapman telling you this. This has been in the Associated Press, but they're reporting it like it's a good thing. In the bill, it allows the federal government to lifetime track every credit card purchase, everything you're doing in your bank account. You know, before they could just randomly dial in or have the bank spy on you. This is now everything you do transparent to the government, and it gives all these Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan regulators that are in all the regulation positions the power to come in and take over regional banks, local banks, healthy banks, and that's why the head of the Texas Banking Association a month ago basically wrote a big editorial saying this is a takeover of healthy banks that aren't involved in the derivatives. So what Bob said is absolutely right. This is a expansion, a monopoly of the Federal Reserve offshore power. This is what the bankers always do. They create the crisis, and then they sell something to the public that, oh, this will get the big bankers. This will, just like 1913 takeover was passed as a supposed way to bring the bankers to justice when they were the ones that were engineering it. So it's problem, reaction, solution. We've got to beat this in the House. It's just a giant power grab, and so I want Bob to speak to that, and then I'm going to let you guys go. But I also want Bob to talk about what's happening in the global markets right now, and what he sees with the serious chance of a financial meltdown. Robini and others are saying at least a 20% drop in the next month in the stock market. Faber's saying a 90% chance China's going to implode, which will bring us down. I mean, these are crazy times to be alive. And Jason, great job. Bob Chapman, good hearing it. Go ahead and you guys take over.
We had Senator Tom Harkin discussing this legislation. Now, he voted for it, and then he said, but I wish we could have gotten the proposal to reinstate the Glass-Steagall Act through. Is he being genuine, or is he really just playing both sides of the field, do you think, Bob?
That's hard for me to say. This is a subjective answer, but knowing he's a politician, he's playing both sides. And, he did one thing and says another. Watch what they do, not what they say. And but just generally speaking, I think we're on our way, and this is a side note, with the elections that are being held, the primaries particularly, are very positive in our direction. And I just hope in November that people stampede to the polls and vote out every incumbent with the exception of a handful. And if we can do that, we get a shot within the system of changing things and changing them dramatically.